Hello, friends. How are you? I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. For the past 30 years, the United Nations have recognized November 25th till December 10th as 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence against women is a human rights violation. And thank you to the UN for always celebrating the 16 days set apart for activism to speak out against gender-based violence. When we hear violence, a lot of times we think it's just physical. No. Before I continue, my name is Jane Nwadiuto, Nwaohia, and I am a domestic violence survivor and an advocate. When we talk about violence, most people think it's physical. No. Violence can be emotional. Violence can be psychological. It can be mental. Violence is manipulation, it's coercion, it's trying to manipulate another person's will to do what you want them to do. It is control. Violence comes in different shapes and forms, and it is not okay. And we are standing with the United Nations in these 16 days to say, no, enough is enough. We are speaking out. We are joining with Ruth Sisters Fellowship International. Thank you, woman of God, Ambassador Ada, for this leadership and for this initiative and for encouraging us to come out to speak against violence against women all over the world, women and girls, the girl child, and also violence against women in the ministry. And I'm standing here today as a survivor, as an audacious. I am very audacious. I am very unapologetic when it comes to advocating against violence of all forms, all shapes and forms, specifically against women. We refuse to tolerate it. It is a zero tolerance. And today I want to focus on accountability. It is time for the laws to be more stringent around the world, to begin to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. Laws in some parts of the world, the laws are too lenient. The laws are too lenient. That's why they're getting away. We need to come together and increase our coalition and show our support and join our forces together. We need to stop looking away. And also, perpetrators of violence are not only the direct perpetrators. There is another dimension that I want to bring our attention to. And a lot of times, yes, we know that most of the perpetrators are men. But there is a different angle of perpetrators that are also women. And you say, why would women support this? Yes. There are also, when you know of a victim, someone that has been raped, abused, and you look the other way, you are also indirectly a perpetrator of that abuse. You're helping to hide. A lot of times we hide, some people that witness abuse, we hide, we try to cover the perpetrators. That is what's going on. The laws are too lenient in some parts of the world. We need to tighten the bolts of the law to begin to hold them accountable for their actions. For example, let's take, for example, a family, domestic workers, nannies, cooks, domestic workers, sometimes they get abused. And the woman, the wife, a lot of times the wife of the man that's abusing them knows, and she chooses to keep quiet. In that situation, you are an indirect perpetrator of abuse. You are encouraging the abuser to continue to, abuse the domestic worker. A lot of times children get raped. Child sexual abuse, they get raped as children. And the madam of the house is very much aware, but she is more concerned on how to protect her husband's image, on how to cover up her husband's image to the world. There's also another dimension of this. A lot of times, even in our communities, a lot of times women, for example, there's a term called flying monkeys. And there's also a term called the princesses of patriarchy. These are women that support men. A lot of women encourage, because these things are passed on. Sometimes it could be mother-in-laws, it could be sister-in-laws. They encourage their sons to continue to abuse their wives. If you're hearing my voice today, it is time to make a U-turn and to change. And it's also time for us to begin to hold these flying monkeys. I call them the princess and Jezebels of patriarchy. Because we know, like they say, it is a man's word. Women have come a long way. Women have come a long way. In this activism, we've come a long way. A lot of times women, back then we could not vote. But little by little, year after year, the value of the girl child is being reconstructed. The value of the girl child in women is being renovated. And that's what I do. I am a value renovator. That is my brand of my business. But the term flying monkeys and the term princess and princesses of Jezebel is very real. These are women that cover up abusers and perpetrators of abuse. These are women, even in our churches, even in our mosques, in our places of faith. There are women that know that the pastor is abusing young girls. The pastor is abusing women in the church. And you know that your spiritual leader, your imam, your Buddhist monk, or whatever religion you identify with, your spiritual leader is abusing women. And what do? You try to shut the victims up or the survivors up. If you're at the sound of my voice today, you need to repent and join us with one voice to hold perpetrators accountable on all levels and to say enough is enough. We need to begin to hold accountable these flying monkeys. These Jezebels of patriarchy also needs to be held accountable. Right now, in a lot of parts of the world, there are perpetrators that are walking free. They're supposed to be behind bars. But because of this dimension, it's been around for so many years, we doesn't have a language. There was no language for it. But now there's a language for women. I'm choosing to, because women are very powerful. Right from the inception of time, women are very powerful. We need to begin to hold these flying monkeys, these princesses and Jezebels of patriarchy that seek to protect the perpetrator and shame the survivors. A lot of women have survived abuse, have survived violence, but they're so ashamed to come out because we have these flying monkeys. We have these Jezebels and princesses of patriarchy in our society, in our places of worship, that seek to press down the head of the survivors. We need to celebrate our survivors of violence and encourage them to come out to speak more. But we need to, first of all, reckon with this fact that there are women. There are women. Yes, we know there are a lot of men. Yes, and we know that a lot of men are responsible. It's more of men that are responsible for perpetrating abuse. So we all need to work together to say enough is enough. against gender-based violence, against even women in ministry that are being abused and cannot even speak out. According to research, numbers do not lie. Evangelical men are more prone to abuse their spouses compared to non-believers. It's proven. Do your research. Numbers don't lie. You cannot argue with statistics. Evangelical men are 3.5 to 4 times more likely to abuse their spouses compared to non-religious abusers and men out there. And women in ministry and women of faith, which means all faiths, women of faith are 3 to 3.5 times more likely to stay in abusive relationships because they believe that if they speak out, their ministry will go down. People will stop inviting them to minister. And we need to change this narrative. We need to begin to change this. This is a level of ignorance. We need to, all hands must be on deck. By our actions, we need to sponsor more coalitions against. We need to begin to sponsor, more reform in our society, in our communities, to begin to encourage victims and survivors to join forces together and speak out against gender-based violence and to send a message to perpetrators that it is not okay, that you will be punished by the law. You will be held accountable. Because the more we begin to hold perpetrators, direct perpetrators, and these flying monkeys and these princesses and Jezebels of patriarchy accountable, the more victims are going to come out and begin to seek help. And I believe that the time is now. We've got to hurry. Because lives, every single second, every single minute, lives are being taken. Children are being sold into child bride marriages. That is a recipe for disaster already. And these children are being abused. They lose their life in childbirth. That is a form, child bride marriage is a form of gender-based violence. Because a girl child that should be in school has no business being married. But because of poverty and a heightened level of ignorance by the members of the community encourages this old man, or a lot of times there's old men that are old enough to be the grandfather of the great-grandfather. You see a man in the 70s and 80s marrying a 12-year-old child, a 10-year-old child. That's an abomination. And we need to rise up. We need to rise up. Martin Luther King said that it is the silence of our friends that we need to worry about, not the silence of our enemies. It is the silence of our friends. People like you and I that are keeping quiet, that refuse to take a stand against violence in our society are the problem, not our enemy's silence. So please, my people, dear viewer listening to me, I'm asking you this question. What can you do today? What can you do today? Do not look at your neighbor. What can you do today to put an end to gender-based violence that the United Nations has highlighted for the past 30 years? Because gender-based violence against women, against the girl child, against women in ministry that are not even talking, that are suffering and smiling, must stop in our generation, in our time. Please, I beg you, be a formidable advocate. Be an activist. There is something that you can do in your little corner. There is something you can do. If you see something, say something. Thank you very much. I am so honored to have been chosen this year, 2022. I am so honored. I'm so grateful Thank you for the opportunity to be among the speakers, to raise our voices and to say enough is enough, and that all perpetrators of violence against women, against the girl child, against women in ministry must be brought to books. You will be punished for your actions. God bless you. Thank you.